In 2002, three American friends set out on a sailing trip in the Gulf of Mexico. During that trip, one of them bent down to their deck and came back holding a pair of black foam shoes in his hands. There was a gleam in his eyes as he had found it a treasure. But his friends could not control their laughter. They said the shoes were extremely weird and ugly. At that time, in the middle of the sea, no one could have imagined that one day the President of United States himself will wear these ugly shoes. And later, these very shoes were turned into a company worth 37,000 crore. This is the story of Crocs. Duke Hansen, who lived in the United States, had hit rock bottom. Despite years of dedicated work in sales and management, he had lost his job. His wife had filed for divorce, and cancer had taken his mother away from him. He was feeling completely hopeless when he received a call from two old friends, Scott Siemens and George Bedorker. All three had studied at the University of Colorado. To cheer Duke up, Scott and George had planned a boating trip in Gulf of Mexico. It was a trip that will change their lives. In the summer of 2002, the three friends sailed on the sail of Hooker. The boat's captain, Ron Oliver, was also on board. This ship belonged to 48-year-old Scott Seaman, who had a thinker's mind since childhood. The moment he saw anything new, he would open it up and start modifying it. At the age of 27, he had started a company that made professional photographic equipment and medical devices. A few years later, he sold the company and made a big exit. During one of his trips, he learned about a company in Canada called Foam Creations, which used a material called Croslite and injection molding technology to make things like spar cushions, pillows, and kayak seats. But a few years earlier, they had casually made a shoes as well. However, they sold that shoes in Quebec City, Canada. When Scott tried these shoes, he saw huge potential in them. He bought several pairs as usual, starting tinkering with them. He punched two holes in the sides and aired a heel stab made from the same material. During the boating trip, Scott showed these shoes to Duke and George. They were black foam shoes with Swiss cheese-style holes and Caterpillar's sharp strap. For a moment, the boat went silent. The other two friends could not stop laughing. Duke said, "Scotty, those are ugly. I am not going to wear those." But in the next few days, when he tried the shoes, they were completely surprised. Each shoe weighed only 170 grams. That was 2 to 3 times lighter than alternatives. It was made from a material called Croslite. After wearing it for a while, body heat softened it, and it mirrored itself according to the shape and size of users' feet. That made it extremely comfortable. Also, Croslite is a closed cell foam. That is why it was water-friendly. It dried instantly too, and unlike leather or fabric shoes, it did not absorb smell. Finally, it had a strong grip on bed surface and did not leave marks. That made it the most practical shoe for areas like board decks and beaches for pool decks. After returning from the trip, all three were convinced that these shoes are so unique that they should definitely try turning them into a business. They created a startup and George Bedorker became its CEO because he was already operating more than 100 Domino's franchises and was on top executive at the company called Fusion. He had long experience running companies. At the same time, he was also ready to become first major investor in new shoe business. Scott Siemens was assigned to lead product development, and Duke Hansen was made responsible for operations. For funding, they approached several venture capitalists, but as soon as they saw the shoes, they dismissed them. So they raised money wherever they could. Their initial investor includes bodybuilder Duke father and some of their friends. Their business plan was simple. In November 2002, the world's biggest in-water boat show was going to be held in Florida. Thousands of boating enthusiasts were expected to attend. That made it best even to launch a new boat shoe. They set up a stall there and displayed their foam shoes. They also gave the shoes a name, The Beach. The reaction there was familiar too. People laughed at them and called them ugly. But the interesting thing was that no one could ignore such a unique shoes. In fact, so much crowd gathered in front of the stall that the path court blocked, and the fire marshal had to make announcement over a megaphone to control the crowd. That was when the founders realized that ugliness of these shoes was not their disadvantage but their main marketing strategy. Every time someone stopped by the stall, they would toss them a pair and ask to try it. And once people tried them, they become fan of their comfort and features. Plus, the price was only $20. That was much lower than traditional boating shoes. So just during the boat show, they sold 1,000 pairs. and proved that demand for their product was real. During this time, the founders made some interesting observations. There were many similarities between their shoes and crocodile. Just like Crocs, their shoes were comfortable in water, above the water and on the land. A crocodile skin make it strong and durable. Similarly, cloth-hide material made these shoes strong and durable. Crocodiles lives for several decades, and these shoes were also made to last long. But most importantly, because of their shape and holes, their shoes resemble a crocodile head. That is why they named the shoes Croc, which is a short form of crocodile. Even its logo and mascot had a smiling crocodile face. And their very fast tagline was "Get a Grip." In 2008, their full aired, they sold 76,000 pairs and generated $1.2 million in revenue. The Croc story has taken off. But in front of the Bolstow footwear brand, Crocs were still a very small brand. That is when Ron Sinder entered the story, and he will prove to be high-octane fuel for Crocs' rocket ship. Ron was a retired entrepreneur who had already built and sold multi-billion-dollar companies. In 2004, he joined Crocs as an advisor and gave the founders only 2 words of advice: think huge. The founders realized that they were still only middlemen. The formula and technology for making the Crocs were still with the Canadian company Form Creation. So they acquired Form Creation in a $5.2 million deal. In addition, they started launching Crocs in new colors, and with slight variations, different models were also introduced. Very soon, Croc market began expanding. Nurses and medical staff who had to work 12-hour shifts found Crocs comfortable to wear for long hours. They were reliable because of the strap, easy to clean, and provide a good grip in hospital floor. Cook Sanchez found comfort in Crocs because of the holes in the hot kitchen environment, and they also got a grip on greasy floors. Similarly, Crocs became the best choice for children, Gartner, and elderly customers. Their sales were literally doubling and tripling in every few months, and by 2004 they reached $1.5 million. Looking at these results, Ron Sinder was made CEO of Croc in 2005 January. Over the next few years, the 3-pounder handed over control to professional management and retired one by one. As soon as Sinder took charge, he began introducing many new models and launched Croc's first ever marketing campaign, Ugly Can Be Beautiful. In 2006, Crocs went public. As soon as trading opened, its market cap hit $1.5 billion. And by raising $28 million, it became the largest footwear IPO in American history. All 3 founders had become multi-millionaires, but the most astonishing story was that of board captain Ron Oliver. The same Ron Oliver who was the captain during their boating trip. He had a net worth of more than $10 million. That was because he had also invested in Croc at the beginning. Similarly, in 2005, a struggling graffiti artist planned a startup office, and instead of taking money, accepted stock in the startup. Just 7 years later, those shares were worth $200 million. By the way, their startup was none other than Facebook. This is just one example of what long-term and patient investing can do. Now its revenue has touched $847 million. By the end of 2007, the team size has reached 5,300. And even US President George Bush was spotted wearing Crocs. Crocs had literally reached its peak. But there was one problem. What Croc believed brought the peak of mountain was actually the edge of a cliff, and very soon a painful downfall was about to begin for them. By 2007, Croc had started offering gold shoes, flip-flops, dress loafers, boots, sneaker-dain boots, backpacks, sunglasses, and even clothes. They had launched a luxury women fashions line called You by Crocs. Under it, they were offering heels with bizarre names like Rocky Rocket, Dangerous Diva, and Impossible Girl at the price point of $820. But people had zero interest in buying luxury heels from a company known for making simple foam shoes. After launching 250 shoe models worldwide, expanding into 100 retail stores, and promising exponential growth to investors, slowing down was no longer an option for Crocs. That is why their assembly lines kept continuously churning out product at high speed. But the problem was that customers were not buying their products at the same pace. As a result, by 2007, the value of unsold inventory had $248 million. That meant Croc had nearly $30 million pair of unsold shoes lying around. But this was only the beginning of their problem. Many brands fail because they are not visible enough. They cannot reach customers, but Croc's problem was that it had become too visible. It was literally everywhere. shoe store, sporting goods store, department store, 7-Eleven stores, airport kiosks, petrol pump, and even garden supply stores. Crocs was available everywhere. Eventually, people started developing fatigue towards Crocs, and over time that fatigue turned into hate. Two Canadians teenagers literally created a website called IHateCrocs.com, whose tagline was dedicated to the elimination of Crocs. They blew up Crocs with firecrackers. They made videos cutting them with scissors and wrote multiple blogs against Crocs. They even sold more than 1,000 I Hate Crocs t-shirts. Finally, the magazine included Crocs in list of 50 worst inventions. By now, Crocs has become the most hated footwear brand in the world. But during the same time, something else happened that made the situation even worse. Several incidents came to light with the soft cross-like form of Crocs got stuck in escalator gaps, causing injuries to many people, especially children. There were 186 complaints regarding these incidents, and Japan even issued an official warning to Crocs. By 2008, Crocs were somehow managing all this when something happened in the outside world that shook them to the core. The 2008 global financial crisis. The same company that had made profit of $168 million of the previous year suffered a loss of $185 million that year. The company that had been worth 24,000 crore the previous year was now valued at only 300 crore. But the final blow came in 2009 when Crocs' external auditor, Deloitte, wrote that Crocs' ability to continue as a going concern was doubtful. Investor demand bankers said that the company was like a zombie. It was already dead, they just did not know it yet. But this time Crocs had shut down its Canadian factory, the very factory where Crocs had been invented. 2,000 employees had already been laid off, and experts around the world had been prepared its death certificate. But as they say, it is not over until it is over. Something was about to happen next that would become one of the most iconic comeback in business history. For the next few years, the Crocs kept suffering from losses. And just when no hope was visible, Blackstone entered the story, one of the world's largest private equity firms. They saw something in Crocs that everyone else had ignored. Crocs was still a globally recognized brand, and the company could still be turned around. That is why they invested $200 million and gave the company a lifeline. At the same time, top management consultant named Andrew Rees was put in charge of Crocs' turnaround, and later he himself became the CEO. They spent months deeply analyzing every product line, every individual store profitability, and the company overall business model. What he discovered was shocking. The original Crocs, on the strength on which entire company had been built, were contributing only 60% of the company's total revenue. The company has suppressed its hero product. It was almost as if they were impressed by it, but according to Ritz, the original Crocs were their deal identity. So he began killing off several other categories one by one, and shifted the entire focus back to the original Crocs. By 2018, OG Crocs had made a comeback. 52% of the company's total sale now came from the classy Crocs alone. Apart from this, Rees shut down nearly 160 loss-making stores. And finally, he closed all their factories and outsourced all manufacturing to contract manufacturer based in countries like Malaysia and China. He had learned the strategy from Nike, which does not manufacture its own shoe, but only handles design and marketing. This asset-light model resulted in significant savings. Because of all these changes, Crocs began surviving again, but Tress' objectives was not survival, it was thriving. Surprisingly, the biggest role in Crocs' comeback story was played by a very small team. These are called G-Boots. They are basically plastic decorative accessory that can be tied to the holes in Crocs. In 2005, up under name Sari Kajuru decorated her children Crocs with plastic flaws and brimstone and named them G-Boots. Her husband created a website and turned into a business, and within short time they were generating crore in sales. Crocs noticed them and acquired the company for $20 million. But for many years afterward, Crocs did not innovate much with G-Boots. However, CEO and Rees noticed that every pair of classic Crocs has 26 holes. That means if someone bought Crocs for $50 and added a $5 G-Boots charm to every hole, the company could earn additional $130 per pair. But G-Boots were not just a profit opportunity. According to these, Crocs were like a blank canvas on which customers could express themselves using different G-Boots. He decided to collaborate with Top and Beacon brands and launched exclusive limited edition Crocs with customized gibbets. In 2008, they launched Crocs and gibbets in collaboration with popular rabbit Forced Melon. Price was $60, and guess what? The entire stock was sold in just 10 minutes. After that collaboration was launched with Bad Bunny, Justin Bieber, KFC, and even Blashan. All of them sold out. The Crocs signed licensing deal with franchise like Marvel, Disney, Star Wars, Pokemon, and NBA, and made their custom gibber generally available in stores. Now a Harry Potter fan could turn their Crocs into Hogwarts themed pair, and Marvel cool fan attach Hulk face, and a basketball fan could show sport of their favorite team. As deserved, more than 70% of pro customers, especially young customers, started buying gibbets along with shoes, and Crocs became the favorite footwear brand of Gen Z customers. Because of this, Crocs Avenue crossed a record $1.2 billion in 2019. But then an event occurred that shocked the entire world: COVID-19. Every other industry, the footwear industry, also started crashing, but something unbelievable happened with Crocs. Instead of crashing, Crocs sales exploded. That was because it was naturally a perfect shoe for pandemic. During lockdown, it was extremely comfortable to wear all day at home. Plus, it could be sanitized easily, and just like always, healthcare worker who worked the hardest during the pandemic also choose Crocs for duty. Crocs itself launched a program called Free Pair for Healthcare, under which they donated like 60,000 pair of Crocs worth $40 million to frontline healthcare workers. This created a very positive brand image for the company. Its revenue started growing exponentially year after year, and reached $4.1 billion by 2024. Historically, Crocs teaches us lessons not just about business but also a personal life. Through its journey, many people laughed at, strove, they called it agree, and even labeled one of the worst inventions. Perhaps influenced by cretinism, Crocs tried to become something completely different from its core identity, and identity shift became reason for its downfall. But when Crocs once again accepted its true identity, without any shame and without any apology, it made an incredible comeback. Because whenever something is different, the world first laughs at it, then it accepts it, and finally it celebrates it. This was the story of Crocs.